asked the forest, "What's a tree?" And it answered, simply standing still for me in quiet hope, in silent witnessing, in resolute refusal to be human kindling. It said, "A tree is what outlasts you and your thoughts. A tree is a composite of past and future, everything you've ever done, everything that's yet to come." I went to leave. The forest said, "Don't go. Don't for a second think you know us, not yet. If you can learn how to listen, we'll tell you what you couldn't dream about a world that's rarely all it seems."
For me, what's special about trees is the sense of calm.
In well-wooded areas, I just feel there's a life going on around us, and I feel connected to that life that's around us.
I love trees simply because being surrounded by nature helps me renew myself.
They're big, they're bold. Sometimes they're small and fragile. They have colours, tastes, touch textures, sounds. I wouldn't be without them.
A tree's a print a child makes with a painted hand, splaying their fingers to make branches. It stands for that same child's arm raised to the air in questioning, in gesturing towards a future where we care for what we can raise up, curate, not everything we raise and take.
One of the key elements within this project and many of the other projects within Treescapes is about engendering hope. We often talk about climate change in really negative ways. We talk about climate crisis, climate emergency, which lead to despair.
Children and young people, they're going to be the witnesses of the 21st century climate change. So looking at that in a hopeful way, or a way that empowers rather than disempowers, I think is such a critical thing to do.
So we've been working with groups of children to co-design and co-generate a video game to enable children to understand and contribute to environmental decision making. They've been involved in developing the worlds, the characters, the stories, the narratives. It's their ideas which have generated the game. So it's really hard for a child to be able to think and visualise, well, what could my town look like in 30, 40, 50 years' time? With a game, we can speed up time, or we can instantly create and poof, there's our tree that's 50 years old. Suddenly you're able to make that connection between a very abstract idea of planting this nut or this seed to, oh, that's the tree that will emerge, and that's how long it will take.
As you go through the game, and as you start improving the city's health, you'll hear more birdsong.
Within the game, we're doing a lot of work that is fun, it's play, but actually by understanding how they can navigate through the game, there's an awful lot of learning that goes on about, oh, actually, how does urban ecology work? And what we're going to be doing in the final workshops with the children is actually making that link very explicit.
Do you want to head through? We've looked at that digital world, we've reviewed what they've created, what parts they've included, what they've enjoyed, and we're going to actually look at, if you could take that digital world, what parts of it would you take and put in the real physical world around us for the benefit of your school? Because you've been in that game, do you think you're thinking a little bit differently about how you might, in the real world, start to do this differently?
Yeah. Before I would have been like, oh. This may sound silly, but it makes me feel famous.
Yeah.
It's really cool to be able to like know that there's a game on Roblox that I've helped design.
We keep thinking it's a bad guy, the bramble. Is it bad if you're a squirrel looking for food?
No.
One of our children actually said, "This is really cool," and he didn't speak. So to have those kind of wow moments where the children's ideas were suddenly lived with a real purpose was great.
I think it's important that people express their feelings about trees, especially little children, because when we get older, adults won't be here. So if we learn about them, we can spread it to the world.
In the city, there are islands made of heat and stoked by cars and companies, by feats of human busyness, by hurrying feet. They're islands, and they want to be the world complete. But trees are circuit breakers, interrupting carefully, absorbing, giving back, and cooling gently.
TRUE stands for Treescape Regulation of Urban Environments. The main objectives were to measure the air temperature and relative humidity in urban treescape areas and compare those with data from a wide network of 65 sensors and other grey and green spaces across the City of Leeds. In the UK, we're predicted to have much more frequent and more intense heat waves. Cities get hotter. This is largely due to the urban heat island effect, where buildings and roads absorb a lot of the energy from solar radiation, and they keep that heat and become hotter overnight. Green spaces and plants and trees in particular can process that and release that overnight and cool things down.
So we're here today in Park Square. This is one of the, if not the major green space in the city centre in Leeds. In particular, spaces like this will probably get to around 4 degrees cooler when it's really, really hot in this type of city.
So when we're measuring the urban heat island, we need data from the city centre that we can compare with rural areas on the extent of the city where we know that it's cooler. Garewood is what we would call a nice rural reference site.
So Garewood is the University of Leeds' woodland creation project in the north of the City of Leeds. Over the past couple of years, we've been working really hard to establish a new woodland on this site, and we have hosted one of Jim's temperature sensors. So as we kind of think about planning our cities and towns into the future, it's really useful for us to know the extent to which we can expect trees that are planted now to be able to have a cooling impact on their surroundings, so that we can bring them into our urban development and make sure that we're providing that kind of cooling for our people in towns and cities.
So we hope that the data that we've recorded from the project will help to not only protect and validate the green space and the treescapes that we already have in our cities, but also promote strategic planting and clever use of these in the future to help mitigate against future climate change and the warming environment we're in.
And trees are fortune tellers, prophesying change. They show us how we've made the planet strange with new extremes. They hold, record, predict. The way a leaf moves leans in a subtle shift of wind.
Trees can play a critical role in the fight for climate change. And the most important thing is their capacity to capture carbon.
So the objectives that we have in Membra are to understand whether trees can get memories of stress.
Like, for example, a disease or an insect infestation event.
So this is what we understand as that memory imprinting, that chemical signature that comes from the material that has been exposed to a stress.
We are in an array. You can see the infrastructure there. And in these towers that go all the way up to above the canopies, what we are doing here is to fumigate or expose our oak trees to the levels of CO2 that we will have in the planet in 2050. When the trees are exposed to this enhanced elevated CO2, yes, they grow more, they are living a happy life, but then they are not thinking that much about other stresses that can impact their growth, like, for example, a disease or an insect infestation. We also study whether these memories can be transmitted to following generations. We are looking for seeds, for acorns in particular, that have been produced from trees that are exposed to those levels of CO2. And we are going to be testing in those progenies different things, like, for example, how they grow, how they defend themselves against diseases. So we get the acorns from the field and we bring them here to the lab.
We assess how they grow, the leaf length, how many leaves they produce, to see if there are any differences. And then we collect material for the DNA extraction to send out for sequencing. What we want to understand with Membra is whether those markers, that imprinting of memory, can actually be maintained throughout the life of the plant, and also whether it can be transmitted to following generations. Because if that's the case, then we have a marker of resilience in one tree that is going to give the capacity to that tree to put up with other hostile environments and also the progeny from that tree. We know that in the future there are going to be more extreme weather events. So we can use those young trees, those young seeds, to actually create the forest of the future.
Ever read a story? Then you've read a tree. They're tales that branch away in perpetuity. Their subjects, structure, italics on the sky's page. Author and subject, written through with age.
When a policy maker or a planner is thinking about how to develop the treescapes, they will get together a lot of the biophysical data about trees. What they forget to do, or they don't have available to them, are the social and cultural values that the local people attach to those treescapes that are being developed or changed in some way or another. And that's the gap that we're trying to fill in branching out. Our premise is that those values are captured in the stories that we tell each other about our trees and our encounters with trees. And tonight we're doing some work with the Youth Forum around their thoughts and their stories.
Tonight's workshop, we are going to look at some images and maps from what this area used to look like, the changes that it's gone through, and then we're going to create a story around past, present and future.
2 minutes writing a story about a tree. If it's a story about Grange Gardens, great. It doesn't matter. It's your story.
The other reason why we use storytelling is that it is a form of knowing, a form of knowledge that is non-hierarchical, because we all tell stories. So that gives us an opportunity to involve those voices that are often unheard or underheard in those kinds of policy discussions.
But what we're going to do is a very, very simple scene, which, as you can see, this is what...
The scene is like DIY magazine. It was used a lot for sharing information to the communities. We're creating a scene based on their stories, and we're focusing on their past, looking at what in this area may have looked maybe 100 years ago. We're looking at the present, so things that they're familiar with, and in the future what it might look like maybe in 100 years time and what difference that there are. So we're going to create these 3 scenes to kind of capture how important trees are.
This is our front cover. It's called The Bark. Sounds of chatter and cheering disrupted my deep slumber. The warm sun shining so bright that it even revealed some of the darkest areas I was unaware of.
Being part of the Youth Forum, many of us feel as if our voices are not being heard. And so projects like these empower us and give us the skills to speak up and voice our opinions about matters such as green spaces. Our title of our zine is called Hunting for the Future.
What we're hoping is that in the future, planners will have more information in order to make more nuanced decisions that will be in concordance with what communities feel and want about their treescapes. So they will be ultimately intelligent decisions.
And then the forest said, "Now, what you'll have to take on trust is that we're really you, you're really us. And since we're you must know us as equals and treat us with the dignity of people."
It's really important for people to have a voice in trees in their local area, in tree planting, in tree maintenance and protection, in the types of trees that are planted and where they are.
Yeah, really nice to have you all back. The purpose of today, as you know, is your last session all together, and this is your chance to write your set of place-based actions, so calls to actions for all sorts of different decision makers in the Manchester area, and also your principles.
Involve is the leading public participation charity in the UK, and we aim to bring people closer to the decisions that affect them.
I mean, I know it looks lovely, like near
It's a very efficient use of space.
What we're doing today is we're looking back at everything that the group has learnt so far.
A principle are the values, the overarching tests and important things that you think policymakers should apply when they're thinking about these actions.
In this session, they're thinking about what are some of the principles that people making decisions about trees in the Manchester area should hold themselves to when they're making those decisions. And we're doing that by trying to prioritise out of a really long list of ideas that they've had, which are the most important principles to this group.
This is a great act of democracy, what's happening, this whole project.
It's been really nice to learn more about treescapes and what they are and why we need them, as well as feeling like I'm a part of making some change in the future.
So what we're really hoping is that the outputs from these sessions, the principles and the calls to action from today, are really useful for anyone in the UK who needs to make decisions about trees and treescapes.
Trees are our longest suffering therapists. They shelter us body and mind, umbrellas when the rain or world or news is too unkind. They stand beside, above, when nothing else will. Give pause when nothing else will.
Trees are important to our health and well-being for a whole range of different reasons. We know from some research that the impacts on people's mental health are particularly important. There's this idea called attention restoration theory, which is all about how nature can re-energise you and reset the connections in your brain, if you like. So if you walk around in a forest, what you'll find your brain doing is it becomes interested in different things to those that you experience in everyday life. You'll see that your amygdala goes somewhere else, so that's the part of the brain that gets really busy when you're connected to a screen. The hormones in your saliva are called cortisol. Those levels decrease, so your stress levels go down. And people will tell you all kinds of things about why they feel better around trees and in woods and forests.
My name's Sophia Brown. I'm a founder of a walking group in Bristol called the Bristol Stepping Sisters. It's for black women and women of colour. So walking in a group, you're connected with people who share the same life experiences. We talk about all sorts, from cooking, cleaning, children. We have some women who come, they're going through bereavement, stresses at work, racism. It does help with mental well-being. I think it's engaging with each other and the actual environments where we walk. I always say nature is a cure for everything.
That light one there, no. Oh, this here.
So the walking has changed a lot of the women's lives as well.
The way in which the woodland can help you is by encouraging physical responses in your body. When you're breathing a different air, your body reacts differently. When you hear different sounds, your body behaves differently. So all those things come together to distract you from your worries and your cares and your everyday.
There is something in the trees, you know, I don't know quite what it is, but there's some type of energy. The smell of the trees, the silence of the actual wood.
Oh, ladies, look at this big tree.
I introduced tree hugging to the walking group because it was the first walk we went on and I was hugging the tree and they were like, what are you doing? You know, that kind of thing. I was like, hugging tree, have a go. And they were like, I said, no, have a go, you know, see how you feel. And then it's just latched on. So when we do go into a woodland area, some of the women will go off and they will hug a tree. And I say, how did that make you feel? And it's like, they're coming on a walk with this heaviness. By hugging a tree, it's like it just takes it all away.
So I think it's really important for everyone to get out and about and enjoy the trees, the woodlands, the forests in their local areas, because if you know those places, you'll love those places. And if you understand more about them and love them, then you'll probably be able to do something to support them.
And when you dig new versions of us, tiny sprouting plans, you're taking yourselves by the hand.
This is a project that was initiated by Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust, and the idea is to use moisture-loving trees to shore up the banks of Painswick Stream here, but also we're hoping that this highly invasive giant hogweed might get shaded out by some of our alder and willow trees in the years to come. We're going to fill up this area and there'll probably be a hand span between the trees, so 2 yards between the trees. We've got 4 types of trees we're planting here, mainly moisture-loving trees like aspen, alder and 2 types of willows. The goat willows are fantastic trees in terms of pollination. We think we're going to make a boggy woodland here, so it's going to be really beneficial in the years to come.
Trees are around for hundreds of years, potentially. So putting them in, you do get the sense this is just the very beginning of a journey, and really your role in this is nothing at all, and it's what that tree then becomes as those decades and centuries pass.
The tree planters in this group enjoy what they do. They come out in all weathers. They don't have to be here at all. I think it's good for your general well-being. It's good exercise. You can look back on what you've done at the end of the day and feel you've achieved something.
You're out here in the sunshine, in the crisp winter morning with a group of people who are really passionate, and that just makes you feel really hopeful and excited to see what comes of this in the future.
You are part of a much bigger effort when you're planting trees, because everyone around, there's so many people around the world who all are feeling this pull and intention to plant trees, and so yeah, you're part of something bigger, and we need to all be doing it.
You've got camaraderie, you've got social interaction, and you've got this mission, that you're making a difference to the habitat and environment around you.
The small act of planting a tree in and of itself probably doesn't do very much, but everyone planting a tree, a whole community, a whole country, makes a huge difference, because what is the ocean but a multitude of drops? One drop doesn't make a difference, but every single drop does make a difference together.
We've told you what you'd barely dreamed about a world that's rarely all it seems. It's up to you now. Plant us, tend us, think of us with eyes and mouths and ears and voice and heart. Turn every fear into a new growth, new chance, and nurture us. Spend time with us, hold us, hug us even, and be held, so you can better know yourselves. Go back, tell everyone this breaking news. A human's just a tree, a vessel for the light to use. A tree, a vessel for the light to choose.